theyeshiva.net.
Okay, let's begin. The hour is late. Welcome everybody. So we have one piece. We have one piece left, a parenthesis on page 104. I hope to finish the Maimer Bli Neder. 104, the last parenthesis of the Maimer, where he speaks about the synthesis of Toyu and Tikkun, what Moshe says to Hashem and Hashem's answer to him. I'll read this, it's a parenthesis, it's a Haggah, but and then I'll explain. Some concepts here are a little difficult, but it's fine. V'ayin masher kosavnu b'makom acher al pasuk aremimcha kidi lisani. You could look what's been explained elsewhere in another maimer on the pasuk in Tehillim, aremimcha kidi lisani. We say in the morning, Tehillim lamed, I will exalt you because you have dilisanis, you have lifted me up. Like dala, you have drawn me out. Eich David, shu b'chinas dibur, hayakolol ba'adam arish b'chinas chachma. David, who represents speech, dibur, malchus, was ma aufgehoben. Dilisani, dala, right? David, it says, was absorbed in Adam b'chinas chachma. The Chazal say, the Zohar says that David, when he was born, was destined to be a bar nafla, meaning a miscarriage. It didn't seem like that his mother is going to successfully be able to complete the birth. And Adam gave him 70 years. Adam was supposed to live 1,000 years. Adam gave David 70 years. Adam lived 930 years. That's what the Zohar says, a famous Zohar. So it's speaking about numbers, obviously, but it represents something. It's a concept. That David was absorbed in Adam. It was part of Adam, which is Chachma. V'hu ke'inyan kvad peh, and that's essentially kvad peh, meaning Chachma is beyond expression, beyond manifestation. When a person has an epiphany, you could see it's very hard to say it, I can't say it, you're still in awe. V'gili b'chinas hadibur b'chinas David, zeu inyan misam pel Adam. Extracting David from Adam, that's bringing it out in words. That's what he says. I made a pella Adam. On this, David says Aremimcha, which is Aremimcha is oimek roim. The depth of heights, the deepest height allows for Adam to come into David, meaning for Chachma to come into Dibur, meaning for Kvat Peh to come out in communication. It's also connected to the virtue, to the uniqueness of the mitzvahs of the Rabbanon. The 248 positive mitzvahs are compared to 248 evarim, the limbs of a person. And the Zohar says it's the 248 limbs of the king. Kivayachal, Adam Elyon. That all represents Hamshachas Eidos B'Kelim. Lights come into vessels. Every limb, we explained earlier, is a vessel, is a keli. And the oir in the keli is the oir in that limb, whether it's the eye, or the ear, or the nose, or the arms, or the legs, of course the brain. It has oidas b'kelim, and the same is true mitzvahs. Every mitzvah is called a limb. It's connected to a different limb of the person. It's also considered a limb of the king, because every mitzvah, just like a limb, or an organ, or any part of the body, any organ of the body is a keli, is a vessel for a particular manifestation of the soul. Every mitzvah is a particular vessel, it's a limb. Kavayachal of Hashem, it's a keli to manifest in a particular oir. So that's called oidas b'kelim. Mashekin shasa loisasa, shasa gidim, hem b'chinas oidas shalamayla mislapshas b'kelim ve'evonim. L'chein ein beloisasa kum va'aseh. V'hainu ke'inyan oidas de toyu shalamayla me'oidas de tikkun, l'chein I efsha l'kelim l'hachilam. Mitzvahs loisasa, over here, how do you perform mitzvahs loisasa? Through inaction, not through action. I can't perform a mitzvahs loisasa through action. A mitzvah means what you don't do. So on one level, it would seem that it's just mitzvahs aseh. That's what it's all about, what you do. He says, but in a way, mitzvahs loisasa is a much deeper mitzvah. You access a light that you can't facilitate through your activity because there's no keli for it. So therefore, how do you relate to it? Through absence, through silence, through awe, through the lack of action. Action represents I'm doing something, I'm creating something, because it could be manifested in a keli. I could contain it. That's why it's connected to the Ramach Evarim. Each Aver has a very powerful ability to be able to be a facilitator of light, and that's what mitzvahs asaya. Mitzvahs loisasa is you access a deeper oid. He says it's the oidus of tayu that are higher than oidus of tikkun, and therefore there's no kum vaseh. There's no kum vaseh is an expression the Gemara says. They don't tell you stand up and do. Rather, it's the lack of doing. It's the absence. But in that absence lay a connection to something that's much more powerful. It's much more potent, and therefore I can't tell you go facilitate it, because you can't. It's too big for you to facilitate. Ata mevin? Huh? It's beyond kalim. He says, "She'ein hakelim yicholim ef shelekelim lahachilam." It's the oidus of tikkun. Kalim can't be. So there's no. The mitzvah is not expressed in a particular action, a particular movement, whether it's words or activities. It's a different. That's a keli because it's not a keli. That's the only shaykhus the person can have. It's similar to what we spoke yesterday about the bracha, right? The argument in the Svaidim and Ashkenaz, we can make a bracha on Shorosh. A bracha means I'm doing something. Not making a bracha, I'm not doing anything. Tfilas Arvis Rishus, I'm not davening. So not is sometimes much deeper than yeah. The Rambam says in Meir Nevuchim that Yediyas Hashlila is more deep than is deeper than Yediyas Hachiyuv. There's knowing something positively, and then there's knowing what it's not. What it's not, yeah. I can't say what it is. I'm sorry, I don't know. I could say what it's not. That allows you to go to a...
But it's also deeper because you can't say what something's not without knowing absolutely everything to be able to say that it's not.
Mitzvah saseh. Of course. The Gemara says, Yashav v'lo yasa v'eretz ki lo asa mitzvah. But how is it a mitzvah? It's through Yashav v'lo yasa. Right? It's not kumvas. Kumvas means you get up and you do it. No, you're the initiator. You're the creator of it. Here you can't create. You can't create it. It's bigger. It's beyond. It's transcendent. It's even deeper than the makif of the bracha. Avol b'mitzvahs, and that's why in Kabbalah it says mitzvahs loisas are higher than mitzvahs saseh. This is the b'china of vavke. This is yutke. This is shasa. This is ramach. What do you mean it's higher? It's all negative. You just don't do it. But it's not that there's no relationship. It's a much deeper, it brings out and it reveals something even deeper in the person and in Hashem. Avol b'mitzvahs derabbanan, shem gamkin b'china zu deloisasa, o makol makay mislapshem b'kum v'aseh, b'kelim lefi shabina yisei nitne b'isha. This is what he says, the mile of mitzvahs derabbanan, that Shem gamkin mebchina zu de loisasa. They come from this bchina of loisasa, and nonetheless, many of them come into kum v'aseh. There's things that you can do. Lefi shabina yaseh nitne be'isha. There's a tremendous bina that was given to the isha, to the woman, to the makabel. In this case, it's the rabbanon, the mile of the rabbanon legabi Torah. V'kach nema l'moisha noichi eye in picha. Anoichi is going to be with your mouth. Shagam oidash mebchinas toyu yislapshu b'kelim detikun. That even the oidus of tayu could be manifested in the kelim of tikkun. Oh, very good. The whole shaydish for mitzvahs derabanan is a lav. Loi sasur min hadavar. He says as a line, Loi sasur min hadavar she'agidu l'chayam min asmal. Don't go away from the thing that they're going to tell you. Yeah. Even the mitzvahs essay that says about mitzvahs derabanan is, the pasuk says, Ushmartem es mishmarti. So Chazal say, Asu mishmeres lemishmarti. What's the idea of loisasa? Mishmeres, right? Asu mishmeres. Your job is to guard. What's the concept of shmira? Stay away, guard, protect. Or loisasim and adavar. Ad kedei kach, you see it even in Gemara. There's an expression in Gemara in a few places in Shas. You have it in the beginning of Megillah, in Shabbos, other places. Gadol kavod habriyas, shedoicha loisasa shebetayra. The kavod of people, of a person, is so powerful, It overrides a loisas Shabbatayna. What does this mean? So the Rishonim explain that it's referring to mitzvahs derabbanan. That kavod habriyas overrides mitzvahs derabbanan. For example, we see it muktzah on Shabbos. Somebody's in a Beis HaKiseh, they used to use rocks to wipe the body, and rocks are muktzah. Gadol kavod habriyas shadoicha loisas Shabbatayna. Other situations, mes mitzvah, kavod hames. So they say, why would the Gemara say it this way? Rashi even in one place says from the Gemara it means it's even Doiraisa because it says Loisas Shabbatayna. Okay, most Rishonim argue. Rashi himself says something else elsewhere that it's only the Rabbanan. But you see how the Chazal refer to the Rabbanan? Because all Chazal are included in the one Loisas of Loisasa.
This might be an example of where this idea, which is Nistar, really correlates with an idea which you have taught us in Nigla, in a Lamdish Shir, which you previously gave, where you quoted of Yosef Engel and you quoted a Chabad Rav, I don't remember his name, about the difference between the Rabbanan, the mitzvah the Rabbanan never is really, doesn't make a din that we do the Rabbanan a chefza of mitzvah, but rather mitzvah the Rabbanan is lishmoa divrei chachamim. So therefore, when you, that's why you don't have
right,
or that's why it's no shogeg Rabbanan. Because the Ma'isa itself doesn't have a time of a
chefza.
That lumdus which you taught us would really fit
very well. Yeah. Because
it's
exactly.
Not a Ma'isa of mitzvah. It's not really a Ma'isa mitzvah in terms of a keli that we're explaining.
Yeah. It's not a chefza. In other words, many poskim say a mitzvah d'oraisa is a din on the chefza of the object, and a mitzvah d'rabbanan is only a din on the gavra. It's not that the chefzas change because they can't change the reality of the world. Right? This is what explained in a lot of places. The difference of a mitzvah d'Rabbanan and a mitzvah d'Oraisa. For example, if somebody sells that's in the Rambam and Hilchas Mechira, I think that's what I spoke about, yeah?
You quote a Chabad Rav had a tshuva, and then at the time with Rabbi Yosef Engel and the whole thing back and forth.
If somebody sells meat, if somebody sells meat, and the meat is not kosher, and a person eats the meat, so the Rambam says an interesting thing. If it was an Isser, and you didn't know, of course, if it was, he says, if it was meat that was awesome in Torah, then you can get back, he has to give you back the money. The Mekach Tos, you give back the money, even though you ate the meat. He says, if it's a mitzvah, if it's an Isser d'Rabbanan, you don't have to give back the money. In other words, the seller says, why? What's the vart? Because he was a shoygig. No, so what? I don't understand. So the Nesivos HaMishpat explains this. If I sell somebody meat and really there's poison inside, okay. So Chas v'Shalom, let's say he's healed. We're not talking if he's harmed enough. Of course I have to give back the money. I told you I'm selling you food. I sold you poison. I'm a Jew. I wanted kosher food. What do we have to give back the money? He says, because it was only Asa d'Rabbanan. So the Nesivos HaMishpat explains it beautifully. What's the logic? I sold you the wrong thing. I asked for kosher meat. You sold me today for meat. So it's d'Rabbanan. So I keep d'Rabbanan. So I think one example, the way I taught it is, it just makes it very clear is, a kid comes home from school, it's Thursday night, there's a beautiful cake on the counter. Mommy says, do not touch this cake, this is for the guests for Shabbos. Right? Guests for the Shabbos, it's not made for you, it's not for Thursday night, even though it's tempting, it's for the guests, we have choshev guests for Shabbos, and we need this cake for Shabbos. Okay. Friday morning after breakfast, he forgets and he eats the cake. He forgets. Yeah. Is mommy going to be upset at him? He forgot. She may be upset. She has to make another cake or this, but fine. People forget. They make mistakes. What happens if mommy says you're allergic to nuts and this cake has nuts? So make sure you don't eat this cake because if you eat this, I'm going to have to take you to the hospital. He forgets Friday morning and he eats the cake. Don't you say, it's a mistake, I don't have to take him to the hospital. You understand the difference? In the first case, the problem is the cake is wonderful. I just don't want you to eat it. I need the guest to eat it. You ate it by mistake? Shine. In the second case, the cake is poisonous. In Yeshiva Shaloshin, the first is a din on the gavra. The second is a din on the chefza. You hear? You understand? It's a din on the chefza. You made a mistake. I know. I'm not blaming you. But the poisonous effects are still there. By mistake, I ate something that I'm allergic to. Fine. I'm not blaming you. But there's still poisonous effects. So the Reise, the Rambam holds the Reise, the Chefza is poisonous. You gave me poison. Now you want noch your money? It's enough that you gave me poison. The Rabbana, you didn't give me poison. You gave me something I'm not allowed to eat. Okay, I didn't know. It was a mistake. I didn't do anything wrong. That's the difference. So you're saying that it's not a din, it's not a shinui in the keli, it's all a din in the gavra. They combine, they connect. On the beged, yeah. No, there's a lot of shilas on that. On a lot of mitzvahs. But by D'oraisa, you could say that it's chal on the chefza, because, and we understand why. God designed the world, and he says this is asur, this is mutter. So it's a shinui in the world. But when the Rabbanan say something is asur, did they actually change the molecular structure of the universe? That would be the svara to say that it's only on a gavra. In other words, God said that you have to listen to the bezdin. Obviously, if they do it al pi Torah, we're talking about. But they didn't redesign the chemistry of the universe to say this is mutter, this is asur. Because when something is asur, the reality is a different reality. The cake has something in it that is, my soul is allergic to it. It may not be visible to the eye, but there's something that the person, the soul, is allergic to it. It may be very connected, yeah. So what's now the chiddush with Moshe? V'anoichi eya im picha. That the two come together. So what does this mean now? What's the sikkum? What's the conclusion of this whole long conversation, the whole long discussion? That really Oiris of Toyu can't express themselves in Kalim. And that's why Moshe can't speak. And he says, Shlach na b'yat tishlach. And the Kalim of Peh are Kalim. And Oiris the Toyu cannot come into Kalim. And on the contrary, they defy Kalim. And that's why there was a Shviri in Toyu. By the way, somebody wrote a comment, somebody asked a question. He doesn't understand. We learned a previous moment that Esav is Toyu. Now suddenly Moshe is Toyu. He got very upset. But he didn't begin to be Toifus the Inyan. Esav is Toyu after the Shvira. Moshe is Toyu before the Shvira. It's a different Toyu. Of course they're both from Toyu. It's a different Toyu. Esav is Toyu post Shvira Sakelim. He always says about Esav, his Shoydish is from Toyu. Esav is post Shvira. I just wanted to clarify. He didn't understand. Toyu, Esav, Moshe. So now Esav and Moshe are the same thing. Huh? There's a shtickle difference. Toyu pre-Shvira is all alakus. It's Ein Sof. Post-Shvira is min hamayim mishisiyu. No, post-Shvira means the way Toyu experiences a Shvira and it doesn't recognize anymore its source. It just has the residue of it, but it doesn't recognize its source. So Moshe says, What's Hashem's answer? Hashem's answer is not just I made mouths for people. Misam pella adam, I'll heal you. That's not the vart. The vart is misam pella adam. That even tikkun comes from anoichi. And if tikkun comes from anoichi, then toyu and tikkun could come together. Now what does this mean? Haloya noichi misam pella adam, haloya noichi havaya. Even tikkun, which is the limit, comes from a noichi. And since it comes from a noichi, which transcends toyu and tikkun, therefore toyu and tikkun ultimately can and must be synthesized. And this is the beginning of Moshe's mission in Judaism. And in many ways you could say that this had to be the first mission because all of Yiddishkeit is about the synthesis of Oiris the Toyu, but Kalim the Tikkun. Oiris of Toyu and Kalim of Tikkun. Now what does this mean? I saw in previous shiurim, some people who listened to the shiurim wrote very interesting comments about the application of this to life. If you may find it interesting, the comments of the last few days, last week, a few people wrote very long and interesting comments, some deep comments. A poet, I don't know who she is, she calls herself Nadra, wrote deep stuff about this maimer. But some the women write interesting comments. Very deep comments over there. Some I didn't even understand, I have to tell you the truth. It's a little toyudik. Although they were writing about Toyu and Tikkun, but it's deep stuff. But I want to bring out at least one application in a person's life that I think emerges from all of this. And I'm going to do it through a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. I have to tell you, when I saw this teaching the first time, it was quite touching. In this week's Parshas Beshalach, the Jews are terrified because behind them are the Egyptians and in front of them is a sea. So I quote, Vayomer Moshe el Hasham, Moshe tells the Jews, Al tiro, don't be afraid. Stand and watch the salvation of Hashem, which He will do for you today. Now listen to these words. Ki asher isem es Mitzrayim hayoim lo yisifu leroisem oid ad olam. Because you see Egypt today, but you will never see them again forever. Ask the Mefarshim, including the Baal Shem Tov, the redundancy here is very awkward. If you were Moshe, you'd say, stand. They're afraid that the Egyptians are going to get them. They're going to have to go back to Mitzrayim. Some of them said, let's go back. Stand, Hashem is going to help you. You're never going back to Egypt. Okay, very good. No, he gives a drash. Ki kasher isem es Mitzrayim hayoim. Because just as you see Mitzrayim today, you won't see them again. Huh? Right. Alive. What's Asher Ism Mitzrayim? It's almost like, because you see Mitzrayim. I know we see Mitzrayim today. That's the problem. Like he's repeating the problem. You see Mitzrayim today. It's almost like you won't see them because you see them today. So the Baal Shem Tov says, yeah, that's what he's saying. There's only one way you're not going to see Egypt again. If you're ready to look at them today. Make sure you look at them today. Only then will you be able never to see them again. That's what the Baal Shem Tov says. You have to see them, yeah. If you don't see them today, you'll see them forever. If you're ready to see them today, then you won't be able to. Then you won't see them. It's not something you don't see. No, you will see them again unless you look at them today. What is he really saying here? Confront, yeah. Confront. One of the scariest things for people in the context of this mimer is making space for Oris of Tohu inside of you. Because Oris of Tohu are not comfortable. They don't sit comfortably in your kalim. That's what makes them Tohu. Tohu means chaos. Why are they chaotic? Because they're overwhelming. That's what creates chaos. Chaos is never created when something has a good place, a comfortable place in a kalim. When something sits well with me, it found a comfortable place, that's tikkun. What makes it toyu is that it doesn't have a keli. There's no keli for it. In other words, what does it mean there's no keli? I can't deal with it. That's what the word kalim is. I can't contain it. I have no place for it. How often do you have such emotions? Rabbi Litzman, you're the best. This is life. It's just the stuff of life. Yeah. When that comes into your head, that comes into your mind, what do you do with it? There's a lot of different options. Repression is the Jewish favorite one. Denial is a great one, right? The river in Egypt. That's what he's saying. That's pshat ki kashisim tamayim leisifu. You gotta get out of denial. Get out of denial, pun intended. Get out of denial. Leisifu lois madailam. Nuchem das passt for dir. Okay, but v'lei nochem alekim. Kannst du wissen als? Huh? Yeah. So that's a good one. Yeah. Or another one is you feel like you're crazy. I'm not repressing anything. I'm just I'm a shugana, I'm a tzedreita, or I'm sick, or I'm a weirdo. And all these judgments and comments. And we understand why. There's no keli for it. You don't want to look at Mitzrayim. You don't want to look at your Mitzrayim, whatever that Mitzrayim looks like. But the Oris of Toyu are very, very real. They're even rooted in a place that's much deeper than Tikkun. They're much truer than Tikkun. The fact that they confuse you so much and they overwhelm you so much is because the Oir is so real there. It's pure. It's not limiting itself. It's actually putting you in contact with your core self. tikkun will not put you in contact with your core self, because tikkun, right, adjusts everything in a way that it fits a keli. Toyu doesn't try to fit into anything. So you say, it doesn't make sense. Good. It's not supposed to make sense. Stay there. Don't wrap your brain around it, because the moment you wrap your brain around it, you just kill the oil. Because you wanted it to fit somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? Can I really make space for that? Can I make space for not making space? I guess that's the word, right? Can I create space for not having space? It's a very difficult moment. It's not an easy moment. That's what Toyu is. Toyu is very, very intense. It's defined by intensity. It's not just intense. That's its definition. If it's not intense, it's not Toyu. And why is it so intense? Because it's the core, as he puts it. It's the Nikud, and there's no iskalalus there. There's no changing the subject. There's no, let me talk about it from a different perspective. Don't give me perspectives. No angles, no perspectives. This is it. There's no hiskalalus. Hiskalalus means I'm not part of there's no integration. There's no synthesis. It's very one-dimensional. So we have a word for it. We call it immaturity.
Again, can create a space with the
You want me not to say it again? It was hard enough the first time.
And are we supposed to take this and apply it to our daily, as Rabbi Litzman says, life? So every time we feel that sense of, I can't.
That's a spark of Toyu. That Toyu, yeah. Give it a name. Yeah. You could put it. Toyu, smile and say, welcome, Olam HaToyu. Bruchim habayim to my life. Some people don't have to welcome it. It's always there. I told you I once gave a shir here Shabbos afternoon, so they put up flyers. The title was, Why is My Life a Roller Coaster? So I was walking on Parshas, so somebody sees me, he says, I'm not coming to your lecture today. I said, okay, that's a great boost for self-confidence. Thank you for sharing it with me. Usually you don't have to tell. You could say, I'm coming. You don't have to say, you're not coming. I said, but why are you not coming? He says, because the title doesn't make sense. I'm like, wow. He says, my life is not a roller coaster. My life is straight down all the time. I don't have what to come. I'm not going to relate to what you're saying. Okay. So some people don't have to say Bruchim Habayim. But yeah, you could give it a label. What do I mean give it a label? Give it a label means it's something. We know what it is. We're not afraid of it. The moment you're not afraid of these things, the moment you're not afraid, that's already the best keli for it. The best keli for it is that you don't need a keli. I don't need a keli. It doesn't have kalim. It's not going to fit into kalim. That's exactly the point. Now, it's easy to speak about. It's much harder to implement this because we love kalim. We like infrastructure. Our minds are made to do that because we come from tikkun. We don't come from tayu. We come from kalim. But tayu and tikkun don't exist in different worlds. They exist in the same world. So Baal Shem Tov is saying, there's only one way you're going to get rid of Mitzrayim. You're going to have to be able to look at it. That's where he says, now the Baal Shem Tov passed away 1760. Tov Kuf Chaf. Okay. That's 150 years before there was even a concept called psychology in the world. The concept of psychology, never mind the studies and the elaboration and the developments and the literature, you're talking almost 2 centuries before that, more than 150 years before that. Here's one line he says it in 2 lines. If you're ready to look at Mitzrayim, you will never see it again. But if you're not ready to look at it, it's going to stay there. Because not looking at it doesn't make it disappear. It just makes it go into hiding. You want me to go into hiding? I'll go into hiding. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to come out through every other possible way, but you're not going to be aware of it. But if you could face it, if you could look at it, you can ultimately spit it out. So the worst thing is to become afraid of a certain thing going on in yourself. You don't have to be afraid of it. It has its place, and you have to be able to respect the integrity of Toyu. And how do you respect the integrity of Toyu? By understanding it will not have kalim. Do not try to give it kalim. We love giving it kalim. We start rational. You ever start rationalizing with your emotions? You ever do that? You ever make that stupid mistake? Huh? It's like a Gemara shir, right? You start convincing your emotions that, no, you don't understand Pshat. It's exactly what Tohu wants. You know why? I'll remain with you forever now. The more you rationalize, the more he will come back with ferocious intensity. Because it's not about that. It's not starting from Kalim that Kalim cannot assuage it. It's not starting from there. Starting from a nakuda that's very, very core, very deep, and all your rationalizations are going to do nothing. It will just come back, but the next time it comes back, it's going to be with much more power. Tikkun operates in a completely different place. The real question in life is, and this is maybe the question of questions, can the two really coexist or not? Really. Not cliche. Can they really coexist? Can you be fully in one world and fully in another world? Can you easily go from one world to another world? Can you transfer back and forth? Moshe says to Hashem, that's not possible. Now we have to hear Moshe understood a thing or two about life. When Moshe says it's not possible, it means because it's not possible. It's not. It's two opposites. One is infinite, one is finite. One defies structure, one is in structure. One is a purist, the other one is I don't want to say a pleaser, but the other one is a compromiser. One is very, very authentic, but it's not sustainable in a real world with other people, even in a real world that requires structure. And the other one is very sustainable.
Split personality.
Yes. Yeah. So Moshe says, and here we're talking about Moshe's Toyu is not Toyu of chaotic, crazy emotions of dysfunctionality. We're talking here, remember, it starts off in alakus, in godliness, but it's Ein Sof. Everything is Ein Sof. And the big thing that Hashem tells Moshe, and that's the key, is until you get to Anoichi, you will not be able to make peace between the two. It's true. You're right. In other words, when you live in Tohu, it defies Tikkun. And when you live in Tikkun, it defies Tohu. And you're right. That's the physics of the world. The physics of the world is Tohu is not Tikkun, and Tikkun isn't Tohu. It would be like combining quantum mechanics with our daily relationship with the universe. You go crazy. In quantum mechanics, that nothing is absolute. Everything is a probability. The basketball is here, right? And simultaneously, it's in different places in the basketball field. So how are you going to play a game? Light is a wave and life is a particle. Everything is paradoxes. Particles are moving clockwise and counterclockwise simultaneously. Tell me how you're going to deal with that. I'm moving like this and I'm moving like this. Or to put it in a famous equation in physics, Schrodinger's cat, the cat is dead and alive simultaneously. And that works. You know that, right? The cat is dead and alive. This sounds like superstitious religion. This is pure secular quantum physics. The cat is dead and the cat is alive, and both are equally true. That's not how our world works. I'm sorry. Why? Our observation collapses all the possibilities into one fixed model, and that's what I could relate to. That's called tikkun. But the healing of the world is only when quantum physics and the external world will become one. That's the healing of the world. That's the real healing. Only when Tohu and Tikkun become one. And that's the moment that happens when Moshe confronts Hashem about this. And he says, send Tikkun. And he says, no, I'm not going to give up on this. Oiris the Tohu will go into Kalim of Tikkun. But how? That's the Anoichi. Anoichi, misam pela adam. Even Tikkun, you don't know what Tikkun is. If you'll understand what Tikkun is, you'll understand what Tohu is. When you'll understand what Tikkun is from a perspective of Anoichi, you'll understand what Tohu is from a perspective of Anoichi, then you'll know how to access the deepest lights of Tohu within the Kalim of Tikkun. That's what you're going to have to do. And let me finish here. Let me finish. Just at least the Isis. Tikkun is never a response to Tohu. In other words, because I'm afraid of Toyu, I run into Tikkun. No. And Toyu is not a running away from Tikkun because I'm afraid of Tikkun. Or to put it in modern language, both of them, when they're coming from trauma, and I'm talking even spiritual trauma, they're not in touch with Anoichi. And that's when they become a contradiction. In other words, the opposition between Toyu and Tikkun is trauma-based. And I don't mean here necessarily, I mean also trauma-based, what we call trauma, but I mean even spiritually trauma-based. It's coming from a response to something that I'm uncomfortable about. He says, you're going to have to go back to Anoichi. Anoichi is my undefined essence. This is very emotional stuff. You could cry when you think about this, that Alter Rebbe understood this. You have to go back to my undefined essence. I'm saying this because you shouldn't think it's intellectual. This is not very, very emotional. You have to go back to your own undefined essence. Can you do that? Over there, you'll see that Toyu and Tikkun are each capturing an equal part of that truth. Tikkun is not a defense mechanism. It's not coming from weakness. It's not coming because, you need a good shidduch and social conformity. You got to be a mensch and don't tell me what you think and I don't care about your feelings and just be a normal person, which there's place for that too. But in its essence, it's a stereo to Toyu. In its essence, Tikkun, which creates space for others, is a manifestation of the undefined essence where everything is included. Toyu, which defies Tikkun, in its real essence is not an escape from Tikkun. What is it in its real essence? In its real essence, it's the fact that godliness is infinite, and therefore things manifest themselves in an infinite way. The challenge, of course, is, if that's what it is, if that's what the Eid of Toyu is, how is it coming into a Keli? I don't understand. You're just telling me that it's beyond structure. Now you're giving me structures for it? But what if I can introduce the Anoichi? And therefore Tikkun can create space for Toyu. And Toyu can create space for Tikkun. When Tikkun learns that its structures are not here to limit reality, its structures are here to be able to facilitate infinity. When Tikkun learns that its structures are not here to serve as traps and prisons, but its structures are really here to be able to transcend structure. Because how can you transcend structure without structure? When I understand that the Keli is really here to be able to allow me to go beyond my structure. Because without Kalim, I could never go beyond my structure. It's the Keli that allows me then to go out of my Keli and create space for another Keli, for another reality, and therefore touch that which is undefined. So it's through the Tikkun that I can touch a place that's much, much deeper than Toyu. But Tikkun without Toyu, of course, becomes a trap. It's Toyu that tells Tikkun, make sure your Tikkun is not coming from a place of weakness. It's coming from a place of undefined infinity and oneness. Anoichi. And it's the tension between the two of them that allows the integration. Toyu, when it's in touch with Anoichi, always creates space for Tikkun. And Tikkun, when it's in touch with Anoichi, always creates space for Toyu. Because it's in the space they create for each other that they touch that which transcends them both and therefore connects them both. And this is what Judaism is. Is Judaism about finiteness or infinity? So most religious Jews who know anything about Judaism will tell you all of Judaism is structure, 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 right? Many of the spiritualists of the last generation from the Jewish people ran away very far from Judaism to Far Eastern or other disciplines. Why? What are they looking for? Oneness, infinity. Those of you who are familiar with some very influential and interesting Jewish leaders within the world of spirituality know that they have all went to Hebrew school at some point, and they'll tell you how allergic they are to institutionalized religion because they felt it's the greatest contradiction to any awareness of truth, cosmic truth. psychological truth, emotional truth, and they run very, very far away to a world where they only speak about oneness, transcendence, infinity, the opposite of institutionalized religion. Huh? So it's not just you need the balance. It's much deeper than the balance. It's not just you need the balance. The balance you need, that's true. It's much deeper. What if the real kalim of tikkun are really your only way to touch that which touches not only toyu, but that which is deeper than toyu? But it's only if tikkun can create space for toyu, and toyu can create space for tikkun. If tikkun thrives on denying toyu, it's a real trap. It becomes a real trap. When you start worshiping structure and institutionalized religion, it's pretty. I don't know. They're not nice. We're right. I want to be nice. When you worship institutionalized religion, it can be very, very stiff, destructive, narrow, and really snuffs out the soul of people. I told you once the story. There was once a Chabad house. He needed a minyan Friday night. There were only 9 people in Shul. So he went outside looking for a Jew, He sees somebody. He fit the profile of a Jew. And I don't know if whatever the profile was. He says, "Excuse me, you're Jewish?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "We want to do a Friday night service. Could you come in 15 minutes? They just need it for Maidav. 15 minutes. And you'll be out. We have a minyan." He says, I don't believe in organized religion." Chavad Shliach says, "I look organized." You think if I was organized, I would stand outside and look for a tent? Yeah. He understood organized religion. He didn't know the way. He didn't know organized religion means I'm organized. But he was really touching on a very deep thing. I don't believe in organized religion. He says, you got the right guy. I also don't believe in organized religion. I'm not organized. No. But organization and structure is essential for life. But only when is it essential for life? If it's not afraid of infinity.
It's not even balanced. It's both living together.
Exactly. The word balance is a tikkun word. Yeah. It's not much deeper than balance. Yeah. We like balance because it's a tranquilizer. We're not looking for tranquilizers.
The great equalizer. Not balance, but equalizer.
I'm thinking of a sentence that I heard once. Reality is never intimidating.
I would like to give a shir tomorrow. Bli neder, okay? I'm going to ask whoever is not on the WhatsApp if you could just sign yourself up with Reb Nuchem or Reb Isaac, just in case, so you could get a notice. Huh? Okay.
To say the great equalizer, does that kind of...
I think it's the great equalizer as well, yeah.
The equalizer doesn't mean that there's any
Right.
barriers. It can extend
Yeah.
beyond the Keli
Yeah,
and beyond the
100%. That's an excellent question. What if the toyu is coming not from too much light, but from too little light? So the truth is, and this is very, very deep, that it always comes from too much light. It always comes from. What does too much light mean? Too much light on one level, on another level, it means destruction. Remember that. Because if I don't have a keli for it, I call it destruction. But that's the healing comes from realizing it was too much light. That's where healing comes from. It was destructive because I didn't know how to translate it.
And you'll never be able to apprehend that light, even you're going to work.
Well, ultimately, when I can create space for it, so the oiris of Toyu could come into Kalim of Tikkun. But it's not by just cutting it out, by denying its intensity.
I wanted to address this pasuk,
Baal Shem Tov ala Torah. The sources, I think, Torah's emes for the Belebele Eger. I think he's the one who quotes it to the Baal Shem Tov that he heard. I think that's where the source is. Torah's emes, the Belebele Eger from Lublin. The Rabbi Kiva Eger selling, but the Baal Shem Tov ala Torah, it's there. It's 2 lines. You could easily...
Freud would know.
Huh?
Freud would ever know.
I saw somebody quoted it in a sefer, but he pushed Mamish wasn't typhus it. He didn't understand it. He was. It's 2 lines. You're like, whoa. If you don't see, you're not going to get rid of us. It's like that.
This posuk, Ki asher raisem es Mitzrayim hayom, lo tasifu leroes.
Missed you. Yeah.
So it's actually Moshe responding to a specific question of
Yeah, yeah.
Israel. What's the specific question? They said, Tov lanu ovet es Mitzrayim, right?
Mimuseinu bamidbar.
So their fear
Thank
is
you.
actually fear of death.
Yeah.
Now they
Yeah.
fear of death.
Excellent. Yeah.
So he said, no, fear. Look at the death.
Yes.
Look at the death.
Look at your fears.
Look at your death.
Face your fears.
Face your death fear.
Face your death fears.
Which is the highest,
Excellent.
the biggest fear in the world.
The biggest fear in the world. Face it, and then you'll be able to get rid of it.
Right. The fear of work, the fear of
an incredible
hard labor,
insight.
Fear of this.
When you'll face it, you'll get rid of it. When you don't face it, it will haunt you forever.
Even fear
And
of
we
death
don't want to
is
do
the
that.
highest fear.
None of us want to do that. I understand why. It's too scary. It's you're touching death. Who wants to touch death?
It is. That's what
We stay. Our brains don't want to go
The
there.
more Torah you learn, the more you understand what it's all about. So your misa
You're an optimist.
doesn't become this.
Of course, we got it. That's the point. That God is not afraid of. You don't have to be afraid of anything when you're aligned with the essence.
Because Anochi has no death. So
It has no death. It has no beginning, no end, and it's not afraid of anything. You're good. And when you go there, you don't have to be afraid of Oyer, you have to be afraid of Kaylee. You see, when you're in the orbit, Oyer is afraid of Kaylee, and Kaylee is afraid of Oyer, so they're allergic to each other. In the essence, we don't have to be afraid. So it's very powerful. Psychologically, it changes everything.
for humans, it's
The ability to expand consciousness on that level is incredible insight that these people touched on this. You know, it's mamish, it's mamish a whole new world. And how to see religion, Yiddishkeit, the structures are never to be worshipped. You never become a limited, people become like, I don't want to say OCD, but it's like everything is structure. There's no room for infinity. There's no language anymore.
A say provides this tremendous structure.
Yeah.
It's
Of course, it's full of structures. Man Krishmas, Man Tfil, everything is structured. But the structure is a path to infinity. It's not a path to limit.
The wall, the barriers.
But this has to be taught. It's not easily understood.
To say it in the philosophical language, the form invites the content.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why most people don't see it inside in the Shem, because they can't face it dramatically.
I don't think that's the reason.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.